All right, let's do a community coin quick price analysis. I'm going to do the three that I've been covering together: MTV, Verasity, and Trias. Technical price analysis. I'm going to keep this one much under 10 minutes, and you should see tags. If you just are interested in one coin, you should be able to go down there. So, and by the end of this video, you have a good feel of what to look forward to, where to be on guard, and I'll show you specific strategies by the end of the video. But before we get going, if everybody could, as corny as this may sound, but you know, stop, drop, and do what the sign says if I can get it to turn on. If you can hit like for me, for returning viewers, that's going to help me continue producing YouTube content for you. So take a quick moment and to do that. I think it's funny how some YouTubers will say, how many do we have right now? All right, I'm not going to talk anymore until I get 500 more likes. I'm not going to be that bad. All right, so MTV is moving still the way I thought it was going to, especially if this day closes around that line. This wick is just a flash crash. You just disconsider it, and it's still within the exact price movement. Depending on the closure of today. So what I mean by closure is when this candle ends and the next one-day candle begins. I'm on the daily chart. It's looking likely at this point that this overall structure maintains itself, and that MTV will prove this previous high here connected to the all-time high, previous all-time high. I think it's going to end up proving this as support most likely, maybe with one-day closure below it, but not very far below it. I bet this proves this line of support. That's my first most likely. So since I'm going to have to go down to the crackhead timeframes for this one, because there's almost no price history above it, right? So analysis on this one's going to be tough, and easy at the same time. Easy in so much that you have a line in the sand. If you start using this as resistance, well, then you're probably going to come back down and test previous support, which you have mild support here in this box. This would be your first hope. And your next one is this line that I already have drawn in here. So your line in sand is pretty easy. If this is proved as resistance, as price on the hourly chart comes up and it can't get past this line, the likelihood of price coming down to check either this box or that box is it's extremely likely. It's just a question of which one will it hit, which support will maintain price. And this is all under the assumption that this was just a flash crash that gets bought up on Bitcoin, right? So if Bitcoin has continuation to the downside down to 40K closing daily candles, I mean, MTV is going to probably come back down to this support at 0.0078, or yeah, at 0.088. It's probably going to hit this. It's probably going to hit that wick up or these wicks here, if Bitcoin continues down. However, I'm doing analysis today based on the idea that this is a flash crash only, and that continuation to the upside will resume probably, you know, late this week, early next week, with a little bit of sideways movement for the next 5 days. Something like that is what is the preface of my analyses today across all coins. So first most likely, price movement. I bet price moves on both sides of this box. And I bet this line becomes the middle point of control. If you go down to something like the hourly or half-hour chart or 15-minute, I bet there's going to be plenty of cases where this ends up being support, maybe wicks below, comes back up, uses it as support, comes up, makes a lower high, breaks through, uses it as resistance. I think it might play around like this with the previous all-time high as the point of control, and then it breaks out, which might be something similar to this fractal here, something to that effect. Something to here, which would align with the idea that it's going to use this as general support with a little bit of wishy-washiness. So I could see that. Honestly, this might be the most probable scenario. When would it break out? Ugh. I think it might break out when at least the 12-hour 10 is up there. Let's see where it is now. It's already up there. I would say when the daily 21 gets above here. So my prediction for when, with that base assumption that this all gets bought up, my prediction is that MTV will break out of this box for my first most probable scenario in a time coinciding to the daily 21 getting in this box and getting within 5% of the top of the box. So let's measure down from top of box to here. That's 9%, something like that. Honestly, the breakout might be much sooner than when I drew it. Actually, it probably will be. So this is way too long. I would say a horizontal range would be my first most likely. Second most likely, similar to my other videos, I think it's going to be a triangle. I mean, for the second most likely, it might move in lower highs. I think it's going to move in lower highs, but even lows. As opposed to regularly coming up to the top of the box. It might just get squeeze, 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 right as this line, which is the daily 21. I'm not on the daily chart, but I drew it in. So this line right here is the daily 21. I guess let me go ahead and label it. And honestly, what happens when you have a descending triangle inside of a horizontal, what happens is the breakout of the triangle, it just then becomes a horizontal and then it breaks out, which could happen. Like, honestly, both of what I just said, both could be true. I'm going to try to write this video down, because if that actually happens, what I'm saying right now, that would be a wicked call. First, within this horizontal, it stays within the pink triangle, and then as the 21 gets close, then it breaks out, but it doesn't break out of the horizontal until roughly September, let's say around September 20th. That would be a wicked, wicked call. But it's looking to shape up. I mean, that could easily happen here. Yeah, I think those are the first two most probable. If I can get a third most probable, I'd probably give a little bit more downside to some type of daily support, maybe 4-hour support somewhere. Yeah, not all the way down there. But let me do my rule of thumb, okay? Because you know what? And a lot of you might not like to hear this, what I'm about to say, especially bulls. So that's 700%. I would say a third most probable is, what did I say, 700? But from a breakout point right here, maybe 500. 500. So that's a 50% correction, which it already almost did, but not quite. 51% is down to this support, daily support. Exactly. Okay, good. That's why I went there, because I was thinking, oh shit, that's about 50% down. And I said, oh wait, that might align exactly with my rule of thumb. For those of you who don't know my rule of thumb, real quick, sorry to bore returning viewers, but a run between, let's say, like 150 to 300%, a common downturn is 40 to 45%. Okay, you literally just measure from the wick top down and you try to buy it between there, and it works so much, right? As long as you know the downturn has happened and that was the top, you know, because you've made a lower high or something, if you're making that guess. You know, sometimes it looks like it's going to do a 45%, but it actually never gets down there, and then it ends up charging up to be 1,000, and then you have to use a different rule of thumb, which I'm going to show you here in a second. But if this was a top, it could easily come down 40 to 45%. With a 300% run. This is bigger than 300% run. From 300, so rule of thumb, 300 to 500%, you're going to get a 50% correction. Between 500 and 1,000, or 500, yeah, let's say 500 to 1,000, you're going to get a 55 to 60% dip. And 1,000 plus, you're getting a 65, I mean, you get a 65 to 70+% move down for a correction, even when Bitcoin goes up. And I know it's so hard to believe, but I promise you it works. So MTV is following, I think, in this camp here. It's like 486% run from its breakout point right here. So That's the rule of thumb, and that's the echelon onto which MTV's run is falling, and it happens to align perfectly with what I was thinking was the third most probable. Go find some daily support from your prior local high, which honestly, that might make this the second most likely, not the third most likely. I would say hitting that line exactly. So that line is coming in at right at 12 cents. That would be my third most likely way. Let's see here. So we started with MTV. I'm going to go to Verasity next. From an EMA non-shape standpoint, I could see Verasity breaking above previous all-time high, which is that yellow horizontal line up there. Once the daily 21 gets within 6% of it. Late September. $56 or 5.61 cents. I would say that's my first most likely. And what would happen there is it forms a triangle. But from an EMA standpoint, that's why triangles happen for the most part, is because so many people buy EMA supports and EMAs are moving this direction. But you have overhead resistance from some previous high. So price isn't bullish enough to break it, but there are too many buyers that step in at the EMA, and that's why you see triangles happen. Just EMA and resistance traders, which most EMA traders look at resistance too, and that's why triangles just, they happen all the time, constantly, and they will probably continue to do so. Probably going to form a triangle just like this. I would bet it's going to be an ascending triangle because this EMA, I think the 21 EMA, honestly, Verasity looks fantastic, folks. This looks really good. I mean, hell, it already had a red day during this flash crash, and it stayed above its daily 21. That is, and for folks who are new, to be above your daily 21, that's bullish as hell. Like there's not much argument for a bearish case when price has, like, you know, in recent history has just been bouncing right off of it, and it's bouncing off of it again with a clear buy pressure with a wick up. I mean, this looks really good for context for newer folks. Why that is bullish. This chart is aggressively up, but it's as healthy as it could be for such an aggressive move, if I can explain myself right. Is it a little too hot? Yeah, sort of. However, in the context of being in a hot move, it's been as healthy as it could, which means it could actually stay hot for a while until it gets unhealthy. It's almost like, you know, sorry to use, I shouldn't use drug or alcohol references, even though I have a good analogy there. It's sort of like training for a sport and going really hard at it. You get diminishing returns the longer you train in a day, right? So a bodybuilder, let's pick bodybuilding since I've done some spats of bodybuilding in the past. You get diminishing returns past about 90 minutes. So there was a famous six-time Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates, and he freaked out the entire bodybuilding world. He was like the first true mass monster of the sport, even though Lee Haney before him, he was a mass monster. He was the first, actually, but a lot of people call Dorian the first real mass monster because he kind of was. He was insane for the time, and he only trained 90 minutes a day. No one believed him And to this day, he maintains that he does, and people vouch for him, his trainer, all that stuff, 90 minutes a day. Because he knew that there were diminishing returns. The more he would work out, the less he would get out of it, right? And so if he trained for 6 hours a day, not only do you have diminishing returns, but here's the point, going back now that I'm not talking about bodybuilding, my major point here is that after, not only do you have diminishing returns, but when you have diminishing returns for so long, meaning you get less and less out of each hour, you actually start to get hurt, right? So then you get into the area where it's actually bad for you, right? So you're moving hot and fast or training hot and heavy, you reach a point where it's unhealthy and it's going to screw you, right? And so there are two ways to move really fast. Very unhealthily, where you're going to hurt yourself, or get as big as Dorian Yates in the most healthy way possible. Even though he ended up hurting his bicep, that's why he had to leave the sport. Irony there. But he did train in the healthiest way possible. And so his training 90 minutes a day is like Verasity hitting this 21. Hit 6 years running. So, I mean, technically this could keep going a heck of a lot longer. Like, this could be his first Mr. Olympia, and he's just like training for a second Mr. Olympia. He might have 4 left to go, right? Something like that. If you don't like that analogy, sorry, you better like it. I had a different one, but I didn't want to create other references. So honestly, Veracity looks freaking good, folks. It's a little too hot, but man, it is healthy and hot. And this is sustainably hot. This looks really good. Yeah. All right, Trias. I have nothing else to say. It looks fantastic. Trias looks just fine. It's still, you know, so you see this channel here where we had a ton of trading, almost 100% of trading for this whole time was done in this channel here. And it just came back into this channel. It's probably going to stay there. So, and you see these wicks down. Even during here, you had wicks down. I bet this ends up being a wick. So if I can zoom in on current price here, you might get a closure below it like you did here, right? So you see how you close below this line here that I'm moving, and then the next day was green. That could happen too. So if this ends up being a closure below this line here, I would still say the next day is green, under the context that Bitcoin recovers. I don't see it, and now I bet it might hang out in this triangle until the end of September, something like that, break out. I don't see it breaking this high anytime soon, but I bet it'll stay in this channel. So I thought Trias was going to break out much sooner, and it would have had this flash crash not happened. But now, I would say it's going to have it's very, very likely going to have a ascending triangle play with horizontal resistance up top instead of horizontal support down bottom. I think you're going to have resistance here. Bam! I bet it plays in this zone, and I bet it breaks out around September 16th. So I'm going to put new timing breakout target September 16th for Trias. Shoot. And honestly, this would technically be one big triangle. This is really good consolidation. Honestly, this could, yeah. So if Trias doesn't break out till September 16th, keeps going sideways until then, its breakout could lead it past all-time highs. This is really good looking. You know, it's not as aggressive as what Veracity was, but to get your next pop all at once, this is looking pretty good. How else might it move? honestly, I think Trias has a chance of doing something weird that's not done very much. I think it has a chance to do a reverse triangle. And breaking out about the same day. Let me make that a different, I think it might get, so let's see here, like that. I think what Trias might do is something based off of this line. I think it might use it as resistance a little bit, but as it gets resistance, it also proves support, resistance, support. And at a certain time, you're going to be getting off of this trend line here. Okay, so let me extend. So let me show you what I'm saying. If you extend that triangle out, you go below that trend line after this point, which means this triangle is about to break out because it can't keep coming all the way down here based off the support here. So meaning I think the triangle would only be this big, right at where it crossed right there, which puts you 4 days. Well, now break out a little, yeah, right around the same time, 18th. Oh, I'll put 16th to the 18th. Yeah, it might do a like a backwards triangle here. I don't think I've ever made that assessment before, honestly. But you have a kind of a special situation with the trading zone and this horizontal, or I mean this higher low area crossing right there, making a cross. And so that bottom line is around $7.93. And for the pink one, the pink triangle, it's ascending every day. So that's what I got. So yeah, if you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and, you know, if you haven't hit like, go ahead and please do take a quick second to hit like. If you're new and you liked what you saw, don't just subscribe, but if you subscribe, let me know what crypto pronoun you want to use, whether you want to be a cryptilian or a crypto crackhead now that you're part of the YouTube community. And if you like this and you want, you know, more exclusive content, go ahead and I have links in the description section of my Patreon community and the content. So I actually grab specific examples. I don't just drive you there to go look at it like, what the hell is this, right? What's inside? Do I have to buy before I see? No. See before you decide, hey, is this worth my time and investment? Have those links so you can literally just see instead of just being led to a website, right? Down there. So go check that out and we'll see you next time.